Morning, Year 8. Hope you're all well. Here we go. Okay, so yesterday we started comparing My Dragon and the Kraken. We looked at some similarities and differences, and you completed your comparison grid in full, which should set you in really good stead for today's lesson, which is where we are going to start writing up our paragraph. Okay, so first things first, loads of you did really well in remembering what P's stood for last week. So that was wonderful. I'm really confident that we know what the P's paragraph stands for. You also thought of some comparison words, which was wonderful, but I'd really like you to extend your vocabulary a little bit. Okay, so last week you might have thought of but, and, perhaps however. Okay, this week I want you to try and think of at least 3 comparison words, 3 similarities and 3 differences, and I want you to think of the most advanced way of saying that you can. Okay, don't make it too complicated, but just think about what gives a good impression to the examiner, what makes them confident that you know how to use the English language. Okay. So have a think about that. Please try and use different comparison words from the ones that you did last week. Okay, so 10 minutes now, 3 similarities and 3 different words that you can think of in as much advanced vocabulary as you can. Okay, 10 minutes, go. Okay, so these are some of the comparison words that I came up with. So you could say as or like or but if you say instead on the contrary or in contrast or likewise or similarly, then that's going to give a really good impression to the examiner. You won't probably gain any marks for it, but if the examiner at the end is thinking, oh, should I give this person a 20 or a 21, then that could make the difference between them pushing you up 1 mark or so, and that mark can really make the difference between you know, a pass and a fail, essentially. Okay, so your vocabulary does matter. Okay. All right, here we go. So we are going to be taking a look and comparing these 2 poems. So I know that you know what a piece paragraph stands for. We've got that down the first column: point, evidence, zoom, and analysis. Okay, in the second column we have got our instructions, so you need to reword and make sure you answer the question. You need to include a quote to support your ideas. You need to use subject terminology in your zoom, and you need to make sure that you are analysing the effect on the reader in your paragraph. Okay, in the next column I have included a sentence starter for you if you need them. Okay, if you are feeling super confident, you don't necessarily need to use these sentence starters. I've seen a couple of examples where people have broken away from these sentence starters and have added in extra comparisons, have thought for themselves about how to compare these 2 poems, which is really wonderful to see. However, if you are still not very confident, then do use them, okay, because they will really help you to structure your argument. Okay, in the last column here, I have got a commentary on how to pick up the marks. Okay, so these are like your success criteria if you want. So in your point, by using this sentence starter and by using a comparative word, you've got to focus on the question by rewording it, and you are going to get marks for that. Okay. Make sure you are clear which poem it is that you are talking about. Refer to them by their surname and include a quote. Okay, so those are the ways in which you pick up marks there. Okay, identify the technique that is being used, so that might be the language or the structure. Remember in lessons 5 and 6 we broke that down when we annotated the poems, so that should be all there for you. And finally, in your analysis, you need to talk about the effect on the reader. Okay, the reader is you. Okay, what is the effect on you? What does it make you think of? What does it make you feel? What's your interpretation and opinion of the poem? Okay, so I would like you now, we have gone through those, to go. To pick either my dragon or the kraken and write one piece paragraph following this outline. Okay, like I said, you can use the sentence starters if you want to, or if you want to break away from that a little bit, then you can do that as well. Okay, I'm going to give you 15 minutes now to write your first piece paragraph, and then we will meet back here in a moment. Okay, so 15 minutes, writing your first piece paragraph, off you go. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you should have your first piece paragraph completed. I've got one here, so I'll read the first part to you. Both poems, in both poems, the poets present fantastical creatures. That's me rewording the question. By describing them and how they behave, okay, that's what's going on. It shows that I have understood the plot and I know what the poems are about. In My Dragon, Alexander states, my dragon is a tricky pet. Here, Alexander uses a humorous tone to engage the reader. The reader begins to imagine what it might be like to have a pet dragon and what might happen as a result. Okay, so that's the part that you have done. Okay, the bit that we are moving on to now is your second piece paragraph, which you are going to sandwich together with the first one by using that comparison phrase, one of those comparison phrases that you've come up with. Now, it's really important that this comparison phrase is correct, i.e., if you are comparing a similarity, then you are using similarly or likewise, because you can't use in contrast if you are then talking about a similarity. It just doesn't make sense. Okay, so make sure that you are proofreading really carefully and that is there. Okay, so the next part, I would say, in contrast, in the Kraken, Tennyson portrays a serious and somber tone. Okay, so I'm talking about tone up here and I'm talking about tone down here. There is a semantic field of sickness and death far away into the sickly night. Here the personification, so I've got my subject terminology there, emphasises to the reader that most will on the surface die. And even though the creature is frightening and monstrous, the reader feels a sense of regret that such an ancient creature is nearing the end of its life. Okay, so that is a waggle paragraph. I don't want you to use this waggle paragraph in terms of writing your own answer. It's really important that you think for yourself. So you don't need to talk about the humorous tone or the somber tone. You can talk about something else that you have come up with in your comparison grid. Okay, you can talk about that if you want, but if you do, I would use a different quote or a different piece of evidence just to make sure that your comparison is your own. Okay, and you are not just rewriting my waggle, because that won't get you any marks in the actual exam. Okay, so that's what I'd like you to move on to now. So you've done your first piece paragraph, another 15 minutes now to write the second part of your comparison by putting them together. Okay, 15 minutes, off you go. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, very well done. You should have a paragraph which is like this one that I've just talked through. Okay, now if you want to really push yourselves, because I know some of you are doing really fantastically well with your paragraphs, if you were writing a full essay, if you were writing a full exam response, if you were doing an assessment, I would be asking you to write 3 comparisons in total. It is really good practice for you to think of more than one thing to compare, okay, which you've already done in your comparison grid. So if you have time and if you really want to get ahead, I would really suggest writing 3 comparative paragraphs in total. You've already done 1, so 2 more to go. Okay, that is what I would suggest that you do. Okay, but what is not optional is to go through your comparison paragraph and to highlight and label where you have included the success criteria. So where have you included your point? Where have you included your evidence? Where have you zoomed in? And where have you analysed the effect on the reader? Okay, so you must do this now. I'm going to give you 10 minutes to do this bit. And then if you have time, or if you would like to, I would suggest that you write 2 more comparison paragraphs just to make sure that you are in practice and you are preparing for when we return in September. Okay, that is the end of this week's lessons. What I would like you to do is to now send me pictures or to hand in some way the work that you have done this week. So that includes your annotations, it includes your comparison grid, and it includes your paragraphs, okay? So definitely hand those in today. I will mark them as soon as I possibly can and get back to you with that feedback. Another top tip for you is to look back in your emails if I have emailed you, if you've asked for feedback, and to check out what my feedback was to you then, okay? Can you improve this week by making sure that you've already checked for those improvements and you haven't made the same mistake twice, okay? Because that would be silly, wouldn't it? You want to be making progress. You know, making the same mistake, that's not going to be useful to you. So have a look back, just double check, capital letters, full stops, that kind of thing, spellings. What else have I said to people? I think the rest of the feedback was fairly individual rather than general. So just have a look at that, back at what I've said to you. If I've said, oh, fantastic, wonderful work, then you know, there are very few mistakes in there. So that's wonderful. Okay, and I'd like to see the same thing again. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really looking forward to hearing from you all and seeing what you've been up to. And I will speak to you all very, very soon. All right, bye.